Yes, the sort of the lead in. Martin is a model maker who has worked for Anderson, he's worked for BBC, he's worked for film. Might not necessarily recognise Martin's name, but if I say Space 1999, Blake 7, Doctor Who, Alien, Outland, Flash Gordon, you've probably seen his work. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Martin Bauer.
Yeah, Dave missed out one or two there. Shucks. Get where you can all see me. See me? Yeah, tripods as well, but I don't like to talk about tripods. And one or two others as well. The latest thing that I worked on, the latest, it was actually shown about 6 months ago, was Equinox. I did a program called E.T. with Phone. Unfortunately, on this particular slideshow today, I've split it into two. I've got so many different slides to show you. The ones I'm showing you today are basically the reruns that I've done of Thunderbird, Stingray and Captain Scarlet. Tomorrow I've got a slideshow of equal length which covers tripods, Alien, Outland, Flash Gordon and all the other things that we mentioned. So you should be able to cover most of the things. My whole purpose in showing you the slides here today is to prove the old adage, or disprove the old adage, that the camera doesn't lie. Because somebody once said that the camera doesn't lie. I really don't know who said that. I don't think he knew what he was talking about. Because if the camera didn't lie, I wouldn't be in business. Because this whole thing is about the art of illusion. So we'll start from here. Can we put the lights down, please? I probably don't need to tell you what most of these are, they're almost self-explanatory. But what I will do is it'll give away some of the sizes that the models were. All of these are reconstructions from the programs, but they are all built to exactly the same scale and size as the originals. Thunderbird 5 itself, as you can see in orbit there, looks fairly large. But when I show you the shot of me setting it up, it will give you some idea of the actual size of the model. I had quite a problem photographing Thunderbird 5. Obviously it's in space. Now my studio has got various lights and what have you in there, but I found I had a great deal of difficulty getting enough space, black space around it. So what I actually did was black out the bedroom. So rather than a studio, Thunderbird 5 was actually photographed in our front bedroom. It's a little bit naff, but the final effect, as you can see from the previous shot, if I go back to it, was fairly okay. The earth in the shot that you see there is actually painted on a piece of cardboard. Now this is what Thunderbird 5 started out at. I mean, you've got to start somewhere. And somebody asked me the question when I first came in, how on earth do I begin? It's always the question people ask, how on earth do you begin? Now obviously with Thunderbirds, I'm copying original or at one time originally existing models, and one of the main problems is getting them accurate. I can assure you that I've only got to get one panel line in the wrong place, and somebody somewhere will come up to me and say, "Excuse me, do you realise that you've got that in the wrong place?" It happens all the time. So I'm pretty fussy, but I have to say that still I've had a few people come up to me and point out that certain panel lines are in the wrong place. This is the beginning of Thunderbird 5. You can get some idea of the size of it again from that shot where it's on the workshop bench. And the basic construction of it is actually perspex and plasticard. The model is about 3 feet long in actual fact. You can see the beginnings of the shape taking place there. In the background you can see one of the many things I use for reference, which is one of the Japanese guidebooks on Thunderbirds. You can see it resting behind the model there. Again, I don't really need to tell you what these things are, you know them very, very well. The most difficult of all the Thunderbird craft to make, because of the shape of it, because of the way it's constructed, is Thunderbird 2. The thing that makes it very difficult is the fact that the pod obviously drops out in the middle of the model, and of course it has to fit into the slot in the middle very precisely. If you look at the model outside, you can see the size of it. It's on display in the room outside there. The Thunderbird 4 in the foreground is not the same scale as Thunderbird 2 in the background. In fact, in that photograph it's a little more obvious. But in fact, simply by, again, the camera lies, by false perspective, it appears as if Thunderbird 4 is much further in the to do the water shots, I build these by building a rather shallow 6-inch deep tank on the terrace at the back of my studio. And it's just done by building up sort of 6-inch high planks, filling it with a tarpaulin, building a tarpaulin over the edge and then filling it with water. Now, unfortunately, I have a, well, not unfortunately, but I have a 5-year-old daughter. And I was in the middle of taking a photograph one day, and we were sitting very busily getting this shot set up. And my wife, who's sitting over there, who's chief ripple maker, she's wave maker, she sits there with the hairdryer. She gets the very fine ripples on the water we find by stripping it with a hairdryer. It's a very fine ripple on water, which is very good for the scale, because one of the biggest problems is scaling down water and fire. It's very hard to get miniature waves, and we do it by the use of a hairdryer. We were taking these photographs one day, and all of a sudden I was looking through the camera lens, and I thought, what on earth is that? I could see this little orange head floating by, and my daughter was throwing her plate into the water, and I've got several shots that I didn't notice, and you've got these little play people bobbing. It kind of spoils the illusion. Plus the fact that I have to tell you that in order to get the water to look realistic, I have to dye it. Ordinary water, for some reason, I think probably it's to do with the fact there's very seldom a blue sky in this country. Normal blue water looks blue because it reflects the sky. We have a problem with grey skies. The water tends to look grey. In order to get it blue, I put toilet flush in it. You know, the kind of blue thing, you know, blue flush. And we also found one day that we were busily taking these photographs and my daughter was paddling it. She was covered in blue flush. So we do have fun doing some of these things. And that again spoils the illusion entirely. I'm going to show you that picture. This is a shot of Thunderbird 4 supposedly underwater. There was an episode of Thunderbirds called Terror in New York City. It was where Thunderbird 4 has rescued a guy after the Empire State Building fallen on top of him. And I had to do a shot of Thunderbird 4 flying down a tunnel. What I actually did was photograph this upside down. Thunderbird 4 was actually hanging upside down. In fact, the entire set is moved upside down. And it's supposed to be a shot of it coming down the tunnel. This is Thunderbird 4 again with its laser beam. Now, the laser beam is actually reproduced the same way as it was in the original series, and that's using a quartz halogen car light bulb. It gives a very nice, very bright effect. Again, we can give perspective here. The puppet in the foreground is an actual original puppet of brains from Thunderbirds. In this particular shot, it's supposed to be Thunderbird 4 in for repair. Brains is supposed to be sitting at a table in the front of the hangar, and Thunderbird 4 is away in the background. And you can see that really, I mean, when I tell you, it's fairly obvious that he's actually virtually standing beside the model. But when the thing was printed and in the shot that they finally used, it appeared as if Brains was right in the foreground and Thunderbird 4 was away in the background. And of course he's studying the plans there of how to build it. Similar kind of thing. I had a major problem with this model of Thunderbird, so it actually weighs about 35 pounds. If anyone goes out there and wants to pick it up, be very careful. It's very, very heavy. Now, one of the problems I have there is hiding the wires which support these models. So what I actually did was, when I put the clamp on the bottom, in actual fact the model is resting on the clamp. If you see what I mean, rather than the cylinder that it's picking up in the water, that's actually resting on the base of the water. The clamp is actually supporting the model, so in fact the model isn't on wires at all. It's just being supported by the stand, which appears to be its clamp. It's resting on it, it's simply balancing on it. The doors which are on the pod are not actually doors at all. In fact, it's a dummy pair of doors with a flat plate, and the model is just resting on it. It's all balancing on top of the clamp. And the clamp is resting on a brick, which is hidden under the water. It's all high-tech stuff. To go back to Thunderbird 5 here, I just put this in, but this is the typical shot which I had to do with Thunderbird 5 being docking with Thunderbird 3. For some unfortunate reason, the Earth is actually round, as I don't need to tell you. When you take photographs with wide-angle lens, for some reason you seem to get this distortion, and unfortunately the Earth tends to come up looking around as it should be. kind of shot. You probably, I mean, these are really sort of classic Thunderbird shots. If you're asking yourself the question, why is it that I did this, it's because when they came to bring out the Thunderbirds comic, none of, or very, very few original slides of Thunderbirds existed. When Thunderbirds was first made in 1964, when I was a mere little lad, many of the photographs of Thunderbirds were destroyed, unfortunately. ITC in their wisdom junked loads and loads of these things, which meant that when they brought out the Thunderbirds comics and poster magazines, on the back of the success of the reruns of Thunderbirds, this is what led me to make the copies, to do these photographs. But I had to emulate the original shots as closely as I could. Again, just a shot of Thunderbird 3 flying away from Earth. Thunderbird 3 is just made out of wood. It's turned out of a piece of wood. Very basic. One of the things that becomes apparent when you're photographing Thunderbirds is the fact that, of course, that not only do you need international rescue, but you need them to rescue something. So the Selene model, which you will see out there on the table, got collared and became Mars 6, a crashed Martian survey vehicle, which Thunderbirds was called in to rescue. So you can see that models get used for other things than what they were originally intended. Once again, something that you never saw in Thunderbird, which was Thunderbird 3 actually landing on the moon. I believe there's no episode where you ever actually saw Thunderbird 3 land anywhere other than on Earth. But I wanted to do it landing in a moon base, so I had to build a little miniature moon base for this particular shot here. The Earth in the background is a cutout of the real Earth stuck on the background. And this shows the construction of Thunderbird 3. Again, you can see in the background on the left-hand side one of the Japanese guidebooks, which I found invaluable for reference of the shots of the Thunderbirds. The only problem I did find, I expect anyone who's into Thunderbirds will know, that virtually every single model of the Thunderbird was different. They varied in colour, the numbers on the side varied in size, the style of the word Thunderbird on the side varied in style. So it was very, very difficult to try and get one definitive looking Thunderbird 3. In fact, I used two different models, and this is the smaller of the two. As you can see it there being built. I had quite a bit of fun with this shot. This was Thunderbird 2 rescuing poor old Brains. He invented this firefighting vehicle, which obviously didn't fight the fire very well because they had to come in and pick him up with a clamp and whisk him away. While I was taking this photograph, I'm behind the camera busily clicking away, and I thought, that's a very nice bright flame coming from the back of Thunderbird 2. And when I looked, the rear wing and tailplane were on fire. It's a shame. It still bears the scars actually to this day. But I actually set fire to a real miniature conifers to do that shot there. And once again, the whole model is actually resting on the clamp. So the model is not actually on wires at all. This is a shot that emulated a particular scene from Thunderbirds. In Thunderbirds Ago, there's a shot where we have the Air Sea Rescue building, and on the building on the right-hand side, I've actually made a copy of the building which appeared in that episode. But for those of you with eagle eyes, and those of you who know the background, you will notice the name of the airfield on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can read it, if I can focus it, but it says Fennel Field. And the reason for that is that Alan Fennell was the editor of the Thunderbirds comic, and who's the guy I've been working for. And I decided it was quite a nice name to do credit himself, so we called it Fennel Field Air Base. But in actual fact, that shot also emulates a very early shot of Thunderbird 2 where it was landed in an air base. That is a pink 1959 Cadillac parked on the right-hand side. If anybody's watched Thunderbird, you will notice the amazing amount of 50s and 60s American cars which found their way into Thunderbird. It's quite amazing. On my particular model, you can get up quite close, as you can see. When they shot Thunderbirds originally, the model that I'm showing you here, the model that's outside, is the same size as the original model. But for close-up shots, they have a much, much larger section of the pod, which was about 3 to 4 times bigger than the actual complete model. With my model, however, I use the same model for all the shots, so my pod actually has an interior, and the vehicles could actually go in and out of that one. And that's just photographed with a very wide-angle lens, which makes it look really huge. Had to happen for our Thunderbird to crash. The last setup I did for Thunderbirds was Thunderbirds and the Dinosaurs. It had to happen, didn't it? The success of Jurassic Park, some bright spark came up with the idea that Thunderbirds were going to meet the dinosaurs. And in the story, Thunderbird 2 crashed in the Amazon or wherever and suddenly found itself threatened by all kinds of extinct creatures. And this was one of the last setups I did. In fact, the model wasn't damaged at all. It just looks as if it was badly smashed up. For these shots, I actually have to make miniature trees, but I tend to stick to making the foliage from real things like moss and small-scale pine trees. One of the most difficult shots I did was in a real quarry. We strung Thunderbird 2 up, this time on wires. We did this in the July before last, and we thought we'd do it in July, we thought it'd be a lovely sunny day. When we started to set the shot up, it was beautiful and sunny. By the time we finished, it was blowing a force 10 gale, and this thing was swinging around in the wind. So what actually I had to do was to have my dear assistant here stand out the way while I took the shot and run back in and grab the model again, and then move out the way, run back in, take the shot, move out the way just in case the wires broke, and the thing was just swinging around. If you bear in mind, you've got a sort of 35-pound model. If it had fallen onto those rocks, it would have sustained quite a bit of damage. But you can see the kind of setup we actually had to do to support Thunderbird 2 against this background. And we picked it, of course, because there's no scale in that background. There's no trees, there's no shrubs, there's nothing to give it any scale. The idea that for this shot came from a very well-known film. My daughter, again, is a great fan of Jason and the Argonauts, and there is a scene in it where I think it's Neptune rises up in the water and holds the clashing rocks apart. And she was watching this one day, and I thought, what a lovely idea to just looking down this sort of channel, to use it as a Thunderbird scene. And I just used tree bark on either side there, pieces of tree bark simply sitting inside the water. But if I show you the background behind the scene, it completely blows it. Don't believe anything. That's how it was actually done. Same again. One of the biggest problems actually is painting out the wires. In fact, in that shot you can just see a wire where I'm actually brushing them out. You have to do this looking through the camera lens and try and brush them out as carefully as you can so they don't show. It's very difficult to get them to hide. Tracy Island, good old Tracy Island. To give you an idea of the time scale that I'm given for these things, I had a phone call from the editor of the comic, Alan Fennell, and he said, we need some photographs of Tracy Island. And he said, you've got 2 days. I need the photographs in 2 days. Now, I didn't even have a Tracy Island then. So I had to make the Tracy Island in 1 day and photograph it on the next day. So that's the kind of time scale you can see that I had to work to, which is really absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, I'm talking about sort of working right through the night to get these things done. That's the same model looking down. You see the sort of detail I'm trying to get in. It's just a manufactured polyfiller over the top of that. Once again, the problem is trying to get it to look as near as possible to the original Tracy Island. In fact, what I did was I took a photocopy of a straight portrait of Tracy Island and I blew it up so it was really as big as I wanted it to. Pasted it on a piece of card, cut it out, and then matched the profile of the island to the photograph of the original. That's how I got the background and profile the same size, same shape. Once again, it completely spoils the illusion of that. There's the famous hair dryer ready to add the ripples in the waves. You can also see that I used very tiny ones of the Thunderbirds there, they're much smaller than the ones that are outside. Another shot which was emulating a shot from the TV series where Thunderbird 1 lands on an oil rig. The whole thing catches fire. Thunderbird 2 in the background is actually rather vague there, but it's actually just a cardboard cutout stuck in the background. I hasten to add that all the pictures that I'm showing you here are actually rejects, because obviously when these go to the comic, I don't get them back. But I'm showing you what I would call the outtakes. The originals, unfortunately, stay with Blu-ray publication. is our special new lighting system we've got here, which we're enjoying. It's very high tech. One of the problems with Thunderbirds actually became trying to think of different rescue scenarios. As time went on, I mean, I was on the Thunderbird comic alone for 3 years, and you can imagine that after a while you sort of run out of ideas. But this was one of the many ones I did where Thunderbird one was rescuing something from a bird place. In fact, this is photographed in a studio, and the rocks in the background are just painted on the background. We've just got the interior decorators in here in front of us. It didn't only become necessary to make the Thunderbirds, it also became necessary to make the silos and launch pads for the Thunderbirds. And I put this shot in because this is sort of shows you the lighting of the thing. This is the model when I finished it, just standing outside in the garden with ordinary sunlight on it. Which looks okay, but it doesn't exactly have the atmosphere of Thunderbirds. But when you compare it with that one, it's slightly different, where the lighting is much more important. Shows how it should actually look with the lighting coming down the tunnel. If I then show you the scale of it, that's the same size and scale as the original Thunderbird one. If I go back to this one, if I point out to you some of the household items that appear, and some of you may well know, strange looking fan thing which is just behind Thunderbird 1 is a lemon squeezer. That's what it was on the original. And the blue ducting thing slightly to the left of Thunderbird 1 was a child's toy periscope available for wars in the 60s. And the blue tanks and red tanks on the left hand side on the backs are soda siphon bowls, which is what they were on the original. One of my favourite shots of the Thunderbird flying along. This is actually a print from an outtake. In other words, it's a second generation copy we're looking at. And it was actually done just by hanging the model over a painting. But in fact, it wasn't even a painting. It was a pastel, oil pastel painting. It was done by a colleague of mine called Kid Skate. He just painted a piece of paper that looked like an Arctic scape, and I hung the model in front of it. And it looks as if Thunderbird runs flying towards you very, very fast. In fact, the model is just hanging stationary. But it's quite a great little shot, as you can see. In fact, I believe that picture was on the front of TV zone recently. That's another one there where it's flying over fields, and the blur effect is simply given by painting a oil pastel background behind it, hanging on in front of it. This is a Styracosaurus threatening Thunderbird 1. It speaks for itself, really. It had to happen, didn't it, really? It's a nice shot. There's quite a bit of time actually involved in making the miniature landscape of these things, which I appreciate. But generally speaking, I'm only given 1 or 2 days at the most to produce each set of setups. So it's a very, very tight schedule indeed.
Was the dinosaur scratched for it?
Yeah. Dinosaurs. He's actually one of the same ones. I actually did some models for Mommy for the Museum of the Moving Image a few years ago. That's what he was originally done for. I worked with Ray Harryhausen on various things. It was one of the models I did for him. And I had the mould of it, so I knocked another one out for this. I used the same model. Again, just put this in there just to show you. It's one of the wrecks shots. I have a nice model of a truck and I have to end up wrecking it so that Thunderbird 1 can come in and rescue it. One of my favourite craft Thunderbirds is the mould.
didn't say.
And I couldn't think of what to do. I wanted fire and smoke to be coming out of the ground as if there was a tremendous amount of friction. And then I remembered that when I was a child, my father used to bury someone in the garden to get rid of moles. So I thought, what better to use? And that's actually what's buried in the ground underneath the mole. What else? I've just put that in really because it shows you again how you can get away with false perspective. If you didn't know better, you'd think that the mole would come out of the pond. In fact, of course, the model of the mole is nearly as big as Thunderbird too. But by forcing the perspective, I can make a series of moles in the foreground and Thunderbird in the background. That's one of the first questions. Sunpro, which is this model was recently auctioned in London. It was auctioned at the previous fantasy contest and is now, I believe, on display in the shop in London. But if you look at that and bear in mind I had to do all that just in one photograph, you can see it's quite a lot of work. Another way that I get to make models accurately is, if possible, to get hold of originals. Now, there's virtually nothing original surviving from Thunderbirds, and these rather dark photographs are of the original existing model of the Hood's tractor in Thunderbirds. It actually does exist. That's the state it was in 10 years ago, so I dread to think what it's like now. It was owned by a guy at the BBC, and I managed to borrow it to take these shots of it. From that, I did a set of drawings, and altered it slightly, and that's it as it is now. The same model was used both with wheels on the back and with tracks on the back. See it there. To give us some idea of the amount of work in it, each track on that vehicle is the same ones that are on the mould, had to be made individually, and sheets of plastic stuck together. So there's quite a large amount of work involved in getting it right. The palm trees are made out of paper. You see the background there. I suppose I need to tell you what that is. That's the original Fab 1. That's not one of my replicas. That is the actual Fab 1 that was used in Thunderbird. It's 7 feet long. And this was what it was like in 1980 when it was brought to my workshops to be refurbished, ready to go to the Blackpool exhibition, the Blackpool Thunderbirds exhibition, in an absolutely appalling state. Well, it speaks for itself really. I mean, if you can imagine seeing something which is, as a child I loved, turning up in that kind of condition, it was very pitiful. And it was virtually a complete rebuild job. By the time I finished it, it looked a bit more like that. That's the original part, one of the original Parker puppets sitting next to it. It's also actually obvious in that shot that the puppets weren't actually in scale with the vehicles that they were driving. Because if you look at him, he looks very, very small. But what's peculiar about it is that when you sit Parker in Thunderbirds, because he's got an enlarged head, when you see his head in the windscreen, it appears the right size. It's only when you see his whole body next to the model you realise that it's actually the wrong scale. It actually appears to be rather too small. This is the most difficult shot I ever did for Thunderbirds comic. And what it actually is that the skin jet, which the model is outside there on the table, so you can see the size of it, it's crashed through the ice. You're in the Arctic Circle and you're looking underneath the ice. The skin jet has crashed through. The Thunderbird 4 is whizzing in to grab it before it sinks into the bottom of the ocean. Most difficult photographic setup I ever did. So difficult, in fact, that I decided I wanted to use it for more than one thing. Because I was working on Stingray as well, I thought, well, I better use it for the Stingray as well, and it gives quite a nice shot. But you have to beware when you're in the deep, because you never know what kind of monsters are going to be lurking around with that. because we were doing Thunderbirds comics and Stingray comics, we decided that we needed to photograph with both. What I would have liked to have done was actually to have Stingray coming out of Thunderbird 2's pod, but unfortunately it's a bit too big for that. What a mucky shot. I don't know what's happened to the shot, it's been dropped on the carpet. This is actually one of mine, but of course it's emulating the shot from the original one at the beginning of Stingray, where Stingray does this most wonderful leap, totally improbable leap out of the water. But we had to recreate it for the comic because it was such a well-known shot. It was one also very difficult to do as well. I put this one in because, once again, it's an example of having to utilise pieces which I had lying around the place. The refinery in the water behind Stingray is part of the original refinery from the film Outland. I worked on Outland in 1980 and most of the model was destroyed, but the parts that did survive, and the piece in the background is one of the many bits that did survive. And I decided to create a rather nice North Sea oil platform, so there it got stuck in the water and used the Stingray. This is actually done for a book called Phenomenon. It was a book about ufology. I know a guy who is chairman of the British UFO Research Association, and I had to reproduce shots of supposedly original UFO sightings. The Americans are right into ufology, as you may well know, and it's apparently there is a hangar in America, either hangar 17 or hangar 57, depending on what you read, where they take all these UFOs that they find. Apparently they've got a whole hangar full of these things. I've never seen them, but apparently there's this hangar full of these things. So I had to recreate this for the book, and this was one of the shots I came up with. We had to have the authentic style of helicopter, the authentic style of jeep, and we had this UFO, which apparently was found out in the desert. But when I came to do Thunderbirds and Stingray, I thought, well, I've got this nice little set of a hangar, I can't just waste it. So it became Stingray's driver. If I tell you that the model, if I go back to that shot and tell you that the model is only 3 feet across, you'll see that it's actually much smaller than it actually appears. The illusion is caused simply by using a very wide angle lens. Sorry. Stingray in the Arctic. I love Arctic shots. I've got this thing about the ice in the Arctic, and I couldn't resist doing this shot of the bombers. Those of you who know Stingray know the wasp interceptors, which appear quite regularly in Stingray. But once again, things are not always what they seem. When Stingray was originally filmed, I expect many of you will know that it was actually filmed in the dry. Although Stingray was shown on the surface, and obviously it was resting on real water, when it was under the water, it was filmed through a tank. It was a very, very narrow tank of water through which bubbles used to rise. The bubbles on the Stingray originally were created. Does anybody know how they were created? They were created by putting Alka-Seltzer tablets in the water. Alka-Seltzer gave off these wonderful little tiny bubbles which used to rise up in front of Stingray. Stingray, of course, was on wires behind the very thin tank. Well, I didn't have to do that. Because my photographs are stills, I didn't need the water to move. So I created a similar effect by painting the bubbles on glass in front of the camera. That's how that shot was achieved. Sorry,
Do you actually work on UFO in any form or not?
no, I was a little boy at school.
I was just thinking, because we use the same technique for skydiver.
Under the water.
Yeah.
I believe they used it on all the shows, actually. There is one shot in a later episode of the UFO where they actually put skydiving under the water. They had a large model of skydiving, they did actually see it in the water. But with even from Supercar, going back as far as Supercar, they filmed through a very narrow 2 to 3 inch deep tank. In other words, you've got a very large tank, it's very, very narrow. The model set is behind it and the camera's in front of it, it films through the water. And it was used on Thunderbird, Stingray, Captain Sky. shows the sort of backgrounds I had to paint to do Stingray. I had to paint all these different backgrounds. They don't look that realistic there, but what I do is when I'm filming these, I fill the room with smoke. There's a smoke machine which fills the whole thing very, very sort of murky and gives the impression that because these are very murky and these are really through effects. But that's the kind of background I have to do the Stingray. Energy framing planets as well. So one of the earliest models I did for Stingray, which was a pen, I built the entire pen at the same size as the original. There is actually water in there, it's actually some reflection of water, there's no ripples so catching up there is actually water in that pen. The original, to give some idea how small the model was of Stingray, the pen set was 3 feet deep and 5 feet long, which is very small. The model of Stingray is only 2 feet long. I put this one in because this has a little bit of a story behind it. One of the last shots I did of Stingray, I wanted to get a shot of it firing a missile at a Titan terrorfish. Now when I first used to use freon gas, which is the kind of gas which is used in airbrush propellant, it didn't used to be flammable. And we used to be able to squirt this thing. We used it on Space 1999 to create these simulated jets of Ethan's coming out the bottom. And when I did this shot here, I put freon gas jet into Stingray. I had a little flame in front of the Titan terrorfish, and we fired the jet. Unfortunately, what we didn't know was that being ozone friendly, they've changed the gas that they put in. I haven't actually got a photograph of the flash that went off because we were so taken aback by it. If I show the aftermath, this is why I no longer have a model of a Titan terrorfish. I also very nearly lost my assistant as well because get those monkeys in solid state it was a frazzled fish. This was the scene after as we were doing it. My assistant squatting down there on the floor when the shot was taken. She was holding the coloured gel over that light, and the flame went right across it. She was very lucky actually that she didn't get badly burnt. We were very fortunate. We normally try in special effects to cover most eventualities, but we did not realise just how badly, just how flammable the jet was. You can also see that, by the way, there you can see how the painted background looks when it's all full of smoke. It starts to look much more three-dimensional. You can also see how small the set is for a very tiny. This is a real lobster. Now, it's amazing. I mean, people get strange phone calls from work, but imagine when you get a call from the editor and he says, "Look," he says, "Martin, we've got this story, and it's about a giant lobster, and we need a photograph of a giant lobster attacking Stingray." Well, of course, in the office space, we used to get a real lobster because we've got a small Stingray. Any real lobster's going to look like it's a giant lobster. So I went to the fishmonger and I said, "I need a lobster." And he said, "Fine." And I said, "There's only one thing." I said, "I don't want you to boil it because obviously, as you may well know, if you boil a lobster, it goes orange. And it changes colour completely. Its whole consistency changes. I wanted it to look like a real lobster. Although we've got an orange light on this particular shot, a lobster is actually blue and black. If you catch a lobster in blue and black, maybe yes, blue and black. So I said, "Well, there's no way I want you to boil this thing, but I need a dead lobster." He said, "No problem, no problem." He said, "I'll stick it in the deep freeze overnight." And what a way to go. There's not too many vegetarians here, but I thought, poor thing. But he said, "Well, I'll stick it in the freezer overnight." He said, "It'll be well dead in the morning." So then, so next morning, Muckins here goes to the fish shop. I've got the model set up. I want to get the lobster. It's as stiff as a board. I bring it back and I'm taking these photographs, and all of a sudden I go to pick Stingray out and this lobster goes. Now that thing had been in more than 24 hours in the deep freeze, which must tell you how strong the lobster was. The thing was alive and kicking. It was quite incredible. So it was fun. It's the only model I ever had a bit back. Again, running out of ideas, but Stingray and the undersea temple. We had to have an undersea temple. I put that one in because that shows you that the whole of the foreground is model, but the whole of the background is just a polished background. The set from front to back is 24 inches deep, and with width-wise, it's about 3.5 feet wide. It's actually very, very Stingray stories and the Thunderbirds as well. And he said, right, says Martin, we want Stingray and the Mysterious Island. So I got my lumps of tree bark, same lumps of tree bark incidentally which you were looking down when you were looking at Thunderbird 2. He said, we need Mysterious Island. So Martin had to do with Stingray and Mysterious Island. This is it. Threatened by huge great monsters. Stingray and Mysterious Island. That's really spoiled, wasn't it? We had fun if nothing else. Stingray in the underwater cave. Now, earlier on I showed you a photograph of Thunderbird 4 going down a cave. Well, if I tell you that this is the same set up the right way, this was actually done, the model was actually done for this particular shot. It was then, I then hung Thunderbird 4 upside down in there and did the shot of it coming down the tunnel. And in fact, there's real water in there and there's smoke laying on the water. But to make that set, I needed 56 pounds of plaster of Paris. And I actually made a chicken wire frame and then threw 56 pounds of plaster of Paris up at the ceiling and let it all drip down to give the stone type effect. And if you look at it that one, you can see it's quite effective. This was Titan's secret base. What the dustman thinks when he comes to the studio and carries all the, because I put all these sets, and I keep the models for all these sets, just got to go somewhere, they go down the junkyard. And if he ever opens the bin lines and finds what's in there, I don't know what he must think. Let's see this little video. Show you the size of the small set actually is. It's made by two colour lights. Don't ask me where the coloured lights came from either, but it's kind of stunning. The other problem, of course, was the fact that this dish had to hold water, so you can see it's built on this tarpaulin. It's actually sitting over tarpaulin. Stingray and a lost submarine. Stingray and a lost submarine. Shows you how big some of the models are. It's quite large. 5 foot long on the submarine. This is my assistant there in Vegas walking around the tank. Actually, some of the nicest shots I've got actually are of either my or my assistant Debbie here in the background, reaching down to pick the models up because it just spoils the illusion straight away. But some of the nicest shots I actually prefer these to the real ones. Stingray on its mobile transporter, the same mobile transporter which was upside down in front of the
No one using video.
You've got to get your money's worth out.
Princess Bride, which should be running at the moment, will run until 5, would run until 5 o'clock.
Now,
So if
another one of Alan Fennell's ideas,
I
or joint idea,
told you
was
at the
we're going to have a
time.
UFO. We're not going to have a flying UFO, we're going to have an underwater UFO. We're going to have to produce the photographs of this object, and the children have got to write in and say, what is it? So for weeks and weeks and weeks, we've had children writing in saying, you know, it's an American submarine, it's one of Titan's latest terror weapons, it's this, that and the other. What nobody spotted was actually it's a flower pot. Unfortunately, I don't have the slide here because it's away with a certain magazine at the moment, but I do have a shot of this. If you can imagine, I can actually do it for you, just a moment. If I do this. If you look at it like that, and if you imagine that it's chopped off there, if we go to any garden centre and buy that straight off the shelf, that is a curved flower pot. Has anybody seen it?
Yeah.
Just grey, yeah. It's made of yeah, so and the top is actually a top of a plastic Easter egg, by the way. A few biro pens. Being a fan of UFOs, there are 1 or 2 fans of UFO around here.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to tell you where I got the idea for this one, but I mean, the idea of miniature forests I thought was wonderful. We had to make quite a large number of miniature trees to do this shot. This was actually on the front of one of the once again, if I show you this completely, it spoils the whole thing. This is a projector, by the way, which is supposed to focus itself. You can see how the whole of the sort of basically the 4 or 5 trees in the foreground are miniature trees. And the trees in the background are real trees. And it's amazing just with a bit of depth of field how you get a whole focus that looks very realistic. I go on location when I'm doing a lot of these shots, and it's amazing the looks you get. This photograph here was taken at Ware and Ball Clay Company. We drove in, parked the car, put the chipboard base on the top of the roof of the car, stuck the SPV on it, took a photograph. The JCB in the background is a real JCB. So you can see how scale can be kidded so easily just with the use of wide-angle lenses. As the lorry drivers drove in with all their piles of clay, you know, sort of more. It was very, very strange shots as they drove in, but very effective. Now, something that aficionados who know the Captain Scarlet comic may well relate to Captain Scarlet annuals may have seen, yes, give a few yeses, yeah, that some bright spark had the idea that the SPV could drive up hills on its caterpillar tracks. I can only tell you, having tried to set this shot up, that the angle of the angle of the dangle has to be 45 degrees exactly, because if it doesn't, the SPV either falls forward or it falls backwards. So there's no way that it could ever have done that. My own idea, in fact, I'm sure that when Derek Meddy was designed it, he meant the caterpillar tracks to drop down onto the ground without any traction. I think that's what was really the idea. But nonetheless, we thought it would be a very effective shot to do it actually doing the climb, in other words, actually on its rear tracks. And I think it actually does make quite an effective shot like that, with using its rear tracks. How far up that cliff face it will actually get, of course, is entirely and just to show you how the model was when it was being built. In fact, in any case, you can see the scale of the model is outside there on the table, but that's being built. The tyres had to be moulded individually in rubber 8. I couldn't get hold of the tyres which were originally used. I understand that on the original models, and it's the same scale as the original model, the tyres were from a 1/12 scale racing car kit. Now, I found the racing car kit in a shop which was used. Unfortunately, one kit, which only had 2 tyres the right size, was £162. So you'll see why I ended up making the tyre specially. The aluminium hubcaps on it were actually turned out of solid aluminium and milled out on a milling machine, which will give you some idea of the amount of work that actually went into making the model. In fact, it's one of the most time-consuming of all the models I've ever done. And it also used to get to some quite nice pickles. We did in the Arctic, which you can see there. The angels in the background are, I must admit, cheesy. They're actually Japanese kids converted. But when you only needed them for a couple of shots, well, I wasn't going to like them especially. The rays of the sun are airbrushed onto the background to give that effect. This was my Christmas card. Those of you who got a Christmas card who know me last year, it said don't get stuck in the snow this Christmas. That was the goal that I set it up. On an oil rig. Again, just trying to think of different scenarios before I just get stuck in this one. Ron shows what was the original, I showed you how it's actually done. Very, very small sets of wood, very limited in space. Again, this is a bit of a cheat. We've got kit aircraft, and the MSV, the maximum security vehicle in the background, is a converted dinky toy. When I told somebody I'd converted a dinky toy, they nearly lynched me. They told me how much an MSV actually goes for, the dinky toy actually goes for. I have to say that the one that I got was actually a very severely battered one, which I bought for about £5 in a junk shop. Converted, it's quite an accurate model, so I used it. But again, you can see how the force perspective is amazing what you get away with. It just looks as if it's floating away in the background. This snow, by the way, is salt and flour. finished the model, another one of Alan's ideas was the fact that we should have an SPV plant being struck by the mistrons. So before I finished the model, you can actually see that, and obviously completing, I did these shots of it in a plant in this place where the SPV is supposed to be being built. You can see all the hubcaps and things before the model's even finished, all laying there. And the mistrons got there first. It's rather a dark shot, but some of you may know the link between Thunderbird's Ago with the Martian excursion vehicle on the front of Zero X. And it's also appearance in the first episode of Captain Scarlet. Because of the limited number of vehicles that appear in Captain Scarlet, I decided it would be rather nice to bring in the MEV and do some shots on Mars. Now that's actually the miniature set which I built with the MEV, but if I show you that and then show you the shot I took with the wide angle lens. Sorry, wrong slide, just get there in a minute, hold on. You see the difference? It's lit. Not content with that, I thought it would also be nice, since Mars was rather an interesting landscape, and made a bit of a change from where and quarry. I thought it would be rather nice if we took it outside as well. So that it coming up to the Martian surface. The model is actually very, very small, as you can see. I'll show you that. It's actually the same size as the original, by the way. Very small model. Who remembers Martian rock snakes? Oh, why not? We even took it out on location in the water. Again, this is actually in a real location. To show you the sort of places I used to have to get into to get these shots. Now this is in a landfilling site that they're doing near where I live. They're building a theme park there, and I think it's a golf course. And while I was taking these shots, all these lorries were driving in with tons of earth and turfs and what have you. And all these great big burly lorry drivers were stopping and we were getting very, very strange looks as we were doing this setup. Now the question I've got asked a lot at the time is when all the studios were closed down and all the puppeteers and all the model makers went home, the question that often was asked was, I wonder what the puppets got up to when everybody went home. Why did they answer this? The Alan Tracy puppet is original. The Tintin puppet is original as far as the head goes. Body isn't original. That's it. That's a lot.